Welcome to Live DAF, your online DAF Yomi Shir.
Shalom Aleichem, welcome back to today's DAF Hayomi Maseches Bava Kamma DAF Tzadik. We are holding 4 lines off the top. V'bois ema. Here comes another terror to the kasha. So basically we had a stira, an apparent contradiction between 2 brises regarding the halacha of an Eved Kanani, Eved who is a non-Yisrael, whose eye or tooth were knocked out. So the halacha is that if the owner of the Eved knocks out his tooth or blinds him, the Eved goes free. We have an Eved which belongs to a married woman, which is considered now nichsei malug. It's hers, but the husband has access to the asset, in this case the Eved. He has usage rights, which we call kinyan peiros, usage, income. So, question is, who's the owner? She, because she owns the Eved, or him, because he uses the Eved? So in one brisa, it said, look, if the Isha injures the Eved b'shein v'ayin, Eved goes free, but not if the husband did it. So basically, she's considered the real owner. Brisa number 2 says, neither her nor him will set the Eved free through the shein v'ayin. The question was why? And how do we reconcile the apparent, contradiction? What's the machlekes about? What are they disputing? These 2 brises. So we had several approaches yesterday, and today we have another possible way to explain the machlekes between the 2 brises. And the point is basically whether the Isha, by knocking out the shein v'ayin, will set the Eved free. Here comes another pshat. Perhaps both these brises do not hold of takanas usha. If you recall, yesterday we learned about takanas usha, which basically means that if the Isha, the married woman, decides to sell her nichsei malug during her marriage, what happens to the nechasim after she dies? Does it go to the buyer, or does the husband come and take it? Does he override the power of that buyer? He becomes like the first buyer. He has the first claim on this asset because of Eva, to avoid animosity within the marriage. That was a takanas usha. So perhaps all agree, in this case both brises agree, there's no takanas usha. So if theoretically she would have sold this Eved, sale is valid. So all the husband really has is kinyan peiros, that limited access, usage rights. He doesn't have inherent ownership, just usage rights. Machlekes is how to treat that sort of semi-ownership. Is it like real ownership? In which case, the husband's involvement is real. He's like a part owner. In which case, the wife is not really a full owner, and therefore she's not going to set the Eved free through the shein v'ayin process. That's brisa number 2, whereas brisa number 1 holds kinyan peiros of the husband. It's not like kinyan haguf. It's not like actual ownership. It's just usage rights. The owner, the wife is the owner, and therefore the Eved will go free when she injures the shein v'ayin. Okay? The question is whether, how to regard kinyan peiros. Is it like kinyan haguf or not? And actually, this very same discussion is going to be discussed in the next brisa as well. We're going to have a machlekes, the Sanya. The brisa speaks about a case where hamoicher abdei la'achar. Reuben owned a slave, and he sold the slave to Shimon. But he says, I still want to use him. I want to hold on to him for another month. Is that okay with you? And he made up with the buyer. He stipulates, I want to hold on to him for 30 days. So what happens during the next 30 days? The owner is Shimon, but the user is Reuben, who has kinyan peiros. Now there's a halacha regarding an Eved Kanani. This is discussed in Pashas Mishpatim. It's the owner, the master. This is unique to the master of the Eved once again. Just like Shein V'ai, this is also something unique to the owner. If he strikes the Eved very hard, and the Eved dies, within a short time, so the owner is responsible, he's liable. But if the Eved survives, Yoimayim, which the Gemara, the Brisa in Mechilta, Rashi brings in Chumash, explains that it's referring to a 24-hour period. So if his death was delayed by 24 hours, the pasuk says the owner is now exempt. That's the halacha, and it's unique to the owner. Versus a stranger who would attack the Eved. In that case, if we determine that the Eved's death came as a result of that attack, the attacker is responsible, irrespective of how much later the Eved died. If we can attribute it to the attack, he's chayiv. But the owner, only if it happened immediately. Past 24 hours, he's exempt. Who's the owner in this case? Ruvain, who's using the Eved, or Shimon, who bought the Eved? For May Eimer, we're going to have a total of 4 opinions, okay? Ruvain, Shimon, both or none? So Rameir says it's Ruvain. Rameir Rishain Yeshnoi Bedin Yoma Yamayim Meshu Tachtav. Ruvain is the owner. Why? Because Savar Kinyan Piris. Usage rights that Reuben has, Kinyan Hagufdami, it's actual ownership. He's the owner, not Shimon. Rabbi Yehuda, no, it's Shimon. He's the actual owner. Sheini Yeshnei Bedin Yoyma Yamayim. He has the halach. Ibn Shu Kaspai. He purchased the Eved. It's his. Kasavar, he's working with Kinyan Aperes Lav. Kinyan Hagufdami. Reuben's usage rights. He's just a user. It's not an actual owner. Rabbi Yehuda, Shneim. Yeshnan bedin yomi yamayim. We apply this leniency to both Reuven and Shimon. You know why? Zeh mibnei shu tachtav, v'zeh mibnei shu kaspai. Reuven is considered an owner with respect to this leniency because he's using him. Shimon because he owns him. Mesap galei. And this is because Rabbi Yehuda is not sure how to treat Kinyan Peres. Kinyan Peres Kinyan Aguf Dami. So that makes Reuben the owner. I love Kinyan Aguf Dami, and Shimon is the owner. When it comes to killing a person and punishing, and we have to go lekula. We have to be lenient. We can't put this fellow Reuben or Shimon to death unless we actually can prove our case. In this case, in this situation, we're not sure, so they both get off the hook. Rabbi Lezer Omer, the other way around. Shneim einon bedin yomi yamayim. Nor Reuben nor Shimon can tap into this kula. They're both non-owners. Zeh Shimon because he's not using the Eved. Levisheinu tachta. V'zeh and Reuben levisheinu gaspa. It's not his purchase. It's not his item anymore. Amar Rava my time with Rabbi Lezer. So Rava comes to explain why is it that according to Rabbi Lezer, in fact, both do not have the din of Yoma Yamayim, because apparently Rabbi Lezer is not going with Rabbi Yossi's route that we're not sure how to treat Kinyan Peres. He seems to know for a fact that Kinyan Peres is not like Kinyan Aguf. Otherwise he would have gone the Kula. Here he's going the Chumrah. So I understand that Reuben is just Kinyan Peres. It's not. But why Shimon? Shimon is the owner. Here comes a special pasuk. It has to be designated with no interference. It has to be totally mine, which you don't have in this case because they're both accessing the Eved at the same time. Amakro kikaspayu, with the pasuk in describing this halacha of this 24-hour wait period, concludes with kikaspayu. He's his asset. Who means his? It's his. With nobody else in charge, nobody else interfering. But here, even though Shimon technically owns, but Reuben is using. Come on, the Amar Ameimar. We have a similar halacha elsewhere, which Ameimar teaches us, and we want to know whose opinion is reflected in that halacha. So we have these nichsa melug, which the isha brings into the marriage. She owns, but he uses, right? If any one of them decides to sell the asset, it's not a sale, it's worthless. Why? So the question is, why? Either it's his or it's hers. Says the Gemara, Kaman Rabbi Lezer. It must be like Rabbi Lezer. We're going to see in a minute that he holds that when it comes to determining ownership, it has to be fully yours. But in this case, the guf is hers, the actual field is hers, but the pairs are his. So it's not miyuchad, it's not designated completely for each one, and therefore they're not, either one of them aren't considered full owners with respect to selling it. Come on to Rabbi Lezer. So it's like Rabbi Lezer, who told us before regarding the halacha of the 24-hour wait period, right? It has to be designated. And likewise, we're going to see in a minute, Man Tana Lahot Tana Rabbanan. Who's the author of the next brisa, which has a similar halacha? Mishachetzi Eved V'Chetzi Ben Chayrin. Person owned an Eved Kanani, and then he released him halfway. Typically, the way that happens is you have two people owning an Eved, and one of them releases. So he released half the Eved. So now the Eved is half owned and half free. V'chein Eved Shoshnei Shutfin, or you have just plain simple case where an Eved is owned by two people. Ein Yoitzin B'Rosh Yevarim She'enin Chayzrin. Halacha is, if the owner of the Eved Kanani injures one of his Evarim, his fingers or whatever, right? So, and it's irreversible, Ein Chayzrin, right? So it's one of these Rosh Evarim, the tips of his fingers, etc., which results in a permanent injury. Typically that's ample reason for the Eved to go free, but in this case where the Eved belongs to two partners, any one of those partners who injures the Eved, that's not reason for the Eved to go free. So the question is why? The fact is, they're both owners, right? Says the Gemara, Amar le Ramad Chal Rashi, Hoche Amri. The following was said, Mishmei de Rava. Guess who it is? Rabbi Lezer. Why me? La Rabbi Lezer Kaspa Michad Loy. Just as Rabbi Lezer tells us regarding the previous halacha with the 24-hour wait period. Ki Kaspa Yehu. It has to be Miyuchad Loy. It has to be personal, designated for you, nobody else involved. For you to be considered the full owner of Hachanami here as well. With respect to the pasuk discussing this root of freedom, where the master struck the Eved and injured him, the pasuk also says Hachanami Avdoi. It says the word Avdoi. V'chiyaki ishes ein Avdoi. I'll strike his Eved's eye. So we have Avdoi. It's his. It's personal. Hamiyuchad Loi, with nobody else involved. As opposed to these cases where the Eved is owned by two people, or the Eved is partially owned and partially free, it's not miyuchad lo, and therefore this whole halacha is not applicable. So bottom line, we discuss the shayla of kinyan peiros. Is it regarded like kinyan haguf or not? Is usage considered inherent to ownership? That's one shayla. Then we discuss the halacha of shein v'ayin or rashi evarim, or selling the nichsim lug, where according to Rabbi Lezer, it has to be fully designated for you to be considered a full owner. Okay, let's proceed to the next Mishnah, discussing Baisha's payout. So, this is the payment called Baishas for embarrassment, for bringing shame. And we have the exact, the amounts, the compensation amounts delineated in this Mishnah. Says the first offender, he was tekeah, which according to Rashi can either mean he kahu al azna, he struck him on his ear, or tekeah mamash, he blew into his ear. He embarrassed him. He scared him, embarrassed him. Sella gives him a sella as compensation. So it's interesting that you can actually, quantify emotional pain. It's worth a sella, and that's what you do. Rabbi Yehuda, you can't get away with just a sella. Mana, 100 zuz, that's 25 sella, 25 times as much. Still, right? Let's say smacked him across his face. That triggers a 200 zuz payout. Let's say he slapped him with the back of his hand, like a backhanded slap, which is even more degrading and embarrassing. It doubles. Nicely, Arba Meis Zuz, it goes up to 400. Soram Ba'azna, he pulled his hair. Talach Rasara, he pulled out some hair. Rakak, he spat at him. Begia by Roike, and the spit reached him. Hever Talisa, and he pulled off his clothing. Para Roisha Isha Bashuk, he uncovered the woman's hair out in the street. Noise saying, Allah Arba Meis Zuz, that triggers a very large 400 Zuz payout. Zaklal. The general rule when it comes to Baishis is that it's really relative to the amount of, embarrassment that was caused, and that's really dependent upon his, the person's status in the community. The higher, the more prominent you are, the more embarrassing it is. It's all about his level of prominence. Amar Akiva, I feel Anim should be Israel. He disagrees. Even the poorest of the poor, they're treated equally to the richest. Because we view everybody as though they're, regular free men, who are formerly wealthy. And they still have that sort of pride. And they're prone to embarrassment. Why? Ultimately, every Yid comes from the same source. We have these great grandparents, Avram, Yitzchak, Yaakov, and therefore we're all honorable people and deserving of proper compensation when shamed or embarrassed. There was in fact, a story involving Rabbi Kiva himself, who ruled according to his view with respect to a story of a fellow who uncovered the married women's hair. So she came complaining to Rabbi Kiva, and he applied a 400 zuz payout to this fellow. Amar le Rebbe, so he turns to Rabbi Kiva and says, Rebbe, tell me Zman, I need some time. Okay, but Nasan le Zman, he gave him some time. And this fellow had a plan. Shamra, so this fellow sort of went on the lookout. And he was waiting. Imedes al Pesach Hatzir. He waited until she was standing. This woman who he victimized was at that point standing at the entranceway to her yard, right near the street. Okay, took that as a great opportunity to try to get himself off the hook from this boishes payment. How do you do that? So he has this pitcher with oil, and he deliberately breaks it right in front of her. Ubaikis or shemen, and it contained just a little bit. An Isser is a small coin, a small amount of oil worth an Isser. And there it goes dripping on the floor. And what does she do when she sees the oil? Quickly she bends down and grabs, gills Esraish, she uncovers her hair in order to apply the oil. That's what they would do. And she was like tapping the oil with her hands, and placing it on her head. So basically, she had just uncovered her own hair willingly. So this fellow quickly got some Adam there. We had them prepared beforehand to witness this scene, the way she's willingly exposing herself. He took that back to Rabbi Kiva. Rabbi Kiva, Omar Loi tells Rabbi Kiva, Rebbe, take a look. This woman apparently doesn't care much about uncovering her hair. She'll do it just for a penny. You require me to pay 400 zuz for doing something that she doesn't seem to mind when it comes to making a few pennies. Apparently, it's not too embarrassing for her. So why do I have to pay? Amar Lois, Rabbi Kiva tells him, it's not an argument, it's worthless. You know why? Because suppose a person decides to injure himself, chas v'sholom, or embarrass himself. It's not allowed. Potter, but a person can't injure himself, but if he does it, he doesn't have to pay anybody. But others that injure him have to pay. So despite the fact that he can do it to himself and not be liable to payment, but others have no right to do that to him, they have to pay if they do so. Another example, when it comes to monetary damages. Okay, since if a person decides to chop off his saplings, to harm him, to bring himself financial loss. Okay, it's not the smartest thing. It's not allowed. Rashi says it's bal tashchis. But others who do it have to pay, despite the fact that he doesn't have to pay if he does it himself. He's potter. But acherim who do it, chayav. Nice try, says Rabbi Kiva. It was a good move. You caught her in the act. Apparently she's willing to do this for minimal financial gain, but you still can't do it to her, and if you do it to her, you have to pay full. Let's go back to the beginning of the Mishnah. What does a sella mean? Apparently there are two sort of sets of currencies, one more expensive than the other. When the Mishnah speaks about having to pay a mana, right? That was Rabbi Yehuda's shita. Pay a mana. Mana tsuri from the city of Tsur, where they minted the more valuable coins. Oy mana medina tanan. Or is it just a common cheap mana, which was way less than a mana tsuri? A mana tsuri was basically 100 zuz. Mana medina is actually an eighth of a zuz from Tsur. So it's basically like a 1/800th of a mana tsuri. Huge difference, right? So the shaila is, which one did Rabbi Yehuda refer to? Mana tsuri tanan or mana medina tanan? Tano Shema will try to prove from a Bryce. The story of this fellow who gavra the takal chavrei. So this fellow embarrassed his friend. Asla kamed Rabbi Yehuda Nasiya. He came to complain to Rabbi Yehuda Nasiya. Amalei. So he responds, Ha no, Ha Rabbi Sagli. Look, here I'm sitting here. Here comes Rabbi Saglili. Right? He's the one that says, the Mishnah says that you have to pay a mana. Havle mana tsuri, give him the more valuable mana tsuri. Clearly, Shema Mino, we see clearly mana tsuri. It's not Shema Mino, that it's the higher one. Now, what do you mean to say? Look, I'm here, and Rabbi Saglili is here. What do you mean to say? My ha'ano Rabbi Saglili. What does it mean to say, look, this is me, this is Rabbi Saglili? We know that Rabbi Yehuda Nasiya was an Amira. Rabbi Saglili was a Tana. So what was he trying to do? Ilay machikamalei didn't mean to say like this. Ha'ano dechasitach. Look, I was here. I saw this thing that you did. I witnessed you in the act. I saw you doing the baishas. So I saw it. Okay, there you go. You're liable. You're responsible. And how much? Well, that's the Mishnah. Rabbi Saglili says you pay a manitsuri. Zil, and because of that, zil havle manitsuri. So go pay the mana. Is that what he meant to say? So basically, Rabbi Yehuda Nasiya was an aide. He witnessed him in the act, and now he's turning around and serving as a judge. Can one person serve as an aide and then switch around his cap and put on a judge cap? Can he serve in a double role on the same, litigation? Lemeim, or do you mean to say the aid nasa dayan, aid to turn into a dayan? It's not so simple. Perhaps each one has his own distinct role. You can't mix them up. But Tanya, we have a Bryce, a Sanhedrin, Shiro, Echad, Sharig, Sanefesh. You have the Bez and the full Sanhedrin who witnessed a murder. Reuben killed Shimon. How did they bring him to justice? Miktsasa nasu edim, Miktsasa nasu dayan. Leave it Rabbi Tarfon. So according to Rabbi Tarfon, the approach is very simple. You have 20 dayanim, right? Whatever. Some of them become the edim, and they serve in the edim role. That's it. We're edim, we're witnesses. Even though we're a qualified, certified judge, it doesn't matter. Today we're serving in capacity of edim, and the other ones become dayanim. No, kulam edim. Since they were all there, they all saw, they were edim. Ve'ein eid nasa dayan. You can't turn around and become a dayan. Ignore the fact that you were actually present. Now, even Rabbi Tarfon is not suggesting that 1 minute he can be an aid and the next minute a dayan. Pick your choice. Okay, you can be the edim, you can be the dayanim. Ad kan loikam Rabbi Tarfon. Even Rabbi Tarfon is only saying Ela de Miktsasa nasu edim, right? Miktsasa nasu dayan. Some of them will serve as edim, some as dayanim. Aval eid nasa dayan loikam. But nobody, even Rabbi Tarfon, wouldn't say that once he testifies, once he's an aid, he can turn around and judge the case. So how could Rabbi Yehuda Nasiya serve in both roles simultaneously? Kitanya hi ganshiro balayla. Perhaps, technically, even Rabbi Tarfon would agree that this case would work. If the Dayan witnessed the event during, daytime, which is when the Bezdin can conduct their din. So then he can see the case and then turn around and judge it. The reason why they couldn't do so in the case of the Sanhedrin, who saw this murder, it was nighttime. The loy b'nei, the Ger said, loy b'nei me'eva dinaninu. At night they can't serve as dayan. You can't hold court at night. So the only way they can proceed is by listening to testimony. Right? They saw it at night, now they can't be dayanim. Next morning, they sit down, they want to conduct this case, they want to litigate this murder case, and how are they going to do it? They need proper Edom right now. Because they didn't see it in capacity, within the when they were serving as dayanim. During nighttime, they didn't serve in capacity of a dayan. There's no concept of a dayan at night. So when they saw it as an aid. An aid has to testify. So somebody has to get up and offer that testimony to dayanim. The only way is by having some people serve as aidim and some as dayanim. But in our case, where the story happened during daytime, we didn't see a can serve in both capacities at once. I saw the story, and now I can judge. I can be a dayan on that story. Because when he saw it, he was serving as a dayan. He can judge. He can be a dayan because it's daytime. So you can have an aid turn into a dayan simultaneously. Another pshat, another way to explain the story with the baishis. Rabbi Yehuda meant to say like this: look, I'm here. The sphere the Amar Mana Tzuri. Look, I'm the dayan and I hold a Rabbi Saglili. You have to pay a Mana Tzuri. That's number one. And actually here we have two Eidim testifying against you. You did that. So, because of this sort of combination, meaning you have all factors in place, you have the Eidim, you have the dayan, you have the psak, you have the amount. So Havlei Manatsuri, go give him the Manatsuri. That's another possible explanation to Rabbi Yehuda Nasiya's response. So he really wasn't offering to be a dayan, to be an Eidim and a dayan. Rather, there were real Eidim standing on the sidelines. Okay, let's go back to the story with the Sanhedrin. Rabbi Tarfon holds some of these dayanim can turn into Eidim and testify before their colleagues. Whereas Rabbi Kiva says no, that the aid, since they watched the story, they cannot now serve as a dayan. Rabbi Kiva ve'ein nas a dayan, really? Vatanya, listen to this brayso. So two people are having a fight. Reuven hit Shimon with either a stone or with his fist and he killed him. Shimon Atimni Aimer, we make a drasha like this. Why does the pasuk mention a stone or a fist? To teach us ma egrif miyuchat shemasr le'eda le'edim, just like the Eda, that's the Sanhedrin, and the Edim, the witnesses, can actually sit down and evaluate. Look, he hit him with his fist. Let's sit down and figure out how strong is his fist, how powerful, how hard, how big. Does it really have the ability to cause this victim's death? And that way they can determine whether Reuben is really liable, he's responsible for what happened. Of course, likewise, any type of item, any type of weapon used, a stone as well, has to be shemasr la'edo la'edim, has to be given over to the Eidah, to the Sanhedrin, to the Eidah, meaning it has to be present, has to be here. It has to be something that can sit down and evaluate and appraise. Is it really the stone that causes death? Or maybe there was some other cause of death. So that's the only way to prosecute this attacker, except prat, for instance, let's say the stone that was used in this murder disappeared. The Eidim lost it and the Bezdin didn't see it. So that's it. We can't hold him responsible, for injuring or killing that person. That's the Shimon HaTimni's approach. So basically, you got to bring the stone into the Bezdin. Right? Just like the fist is right here and can be evaluated, the stone also, the weapon has to be brought to the Bezdin. The Bezdin has to actually physically see what happened to determine the cause of death. Amar Rekiva, really? You're taking it a bit too far. Bezdin has to actually hold a stone in their hands. Even to say that anytime Reuven, a person kills someone, has to be in front of the Bezdin, have to see the whole story. Bava Kamma, they have to be able to personally see and witness the whole story, how many times he hit him, and where on his body he struck him, imal shoike, whether it was on his thigh, where it wouldn't kill him, aitzipar nafsho, very sensitive part of his, Rashi says, the part of the heart, where striking there would actually be very dangerous. Does Bezdin have to actually see the story? No, Bezdin is sitting in the courthouse. Another point. It's not realistic for Bezdin to actually personally firsthand see what's going on. Imagine Reuven threw Shimon off the roof, or off the mansion, or Mason died. How's Bezdin going to determine the cause of that? You mean they're going to go check out the building there and see or maybe the building we brought to Bezdin? Right? Sounds comical. Another point. Let's say he threw him off the roof. Now we have to go back and determine whether this fall was really the cause of his death. So let's say they demolished the building. They have to go rebuild it now. It's not practical. So you can't suggest that it has to be actually brought into the Bezdin, and that Bezdin has to see it firsthand. Ella rather means like this. The Pasuk compares the Evan to the Egrave. Ma Egrave miyuchad shu masur la'edim. Avkoil shu masur la'edim. Just like the fist is something clear and visible, that the Eidim, not the Bezdin, the Eidim can use it to determine whether this fist was really the cause of death. But once they determine that, they can bring the fact into Bezdin and say, Reuven killed Shimon, period. We determine based on our evaluation. So likewise, Afkoil, Shemasul Eidim, if you use any other item like a stone, it has to be something that the Eidim have to first have, personally see and evaluate and determine that in fact was sufficient to bring about this, injury or death. As opposed to Prat, let's say the stone disappeared before the Eidim actually got a hold of it and be able to determine this being the cause of death. So then he's potter because they can't really attribute guilt to the attacker. Okay, that's the back and forth between these two Tanaim. At any rate, what do we have? Amar Rekiva, v'chivi pnei Bezdin hiko sheyoidin kama hiko o hiko b'fnei kama hiko. Rekiva responded, well, it's not practical. You mean every murder takes place in front of the Bezdin? Hold it. In front of Bezdin? Does that really help us? It sounds like that's the epitome. That's the best, right? First hand, right? But if it would have happened in front of the Bezdin, you're running into another complication. Because then they're all Eidim, and you're wanting to turn them into Dayanim, which according to Rekiva doesn't work. You're right. The Dvorav, the Rabbi Shimon HaTimni Ka'amar, you're right. This whole back and forth was only with respect to Shimon HaTimni's opinion, but he himself, Rekiva himself, personally, if the Bezdin actually witnessed the murder, it wouldn't help us. It would make it worse. Because Eid cannot turn into a Dayan. Tana Rabbanan. So we know that if a shor injures, you pay for damages. If he's a tam, right? If he's relatively innocent, first, second time, you pay 50%. And you pay migufay. Right? The owner is not responsible, doesn't have to actually write a check. If he chooses not to, you take the shor and you sell it. So you're only liable in as much as the shor has value. Whereas if it's a mud, habitual attacker, then you have to pay fully, and you pay from your, mialeh, your own assets. It's a personal responsibility on account of the owner. We also know that if a shor killed a person, the shor is put to death. Now what happens if the shor did both? A double header. He killed and he injured. Tanuraban, a shor tam. Okay, depends. If it's a shor tam, shehemis v'hizik, he killed and he injured. So how do we sort of retrieve everything? Done and oisa din in nefashes. So in this case we can't. We first conduct din in nefashes, which basically condemns the shor for misa on account of his killing the person. That's it. Ve'ein done and oisa din in you can't go further and make him liable for that injury, for the injury or the monetary damage that he caused, because it's a shor tam who only pays me gufay from his own value, and he's being put to death. That's only they pay from. So it's over. Just din in nefashes and you're done. But if he's a muad, who went through the same sequence, Shehemes v'hizik, he killed a person and he causes damage. In this case, we first deal with the monetary loss, and we impose that on the owner, and then we go and put the shur to death on account of his murder. Now, kadmu v'danu din nefashos. But if, let's say, they went the other way, they first dealt with the din nefashos, condemned him to death, it's too late. Ein chayzrin v'dan noisi din nemanos. We can't deal with the monetary loss. Why? Just because they dealt with the din nefashos first. Mayavi. Why is that the end of the story? Let them speak about the mamonos afterwards. Amarava. Here's the text. I encountered the chachamim from the yeshiva. They were sitting and explaining like this. Hamani Rav Shimon HaTemnihu. This must be following the shita of Rav Shimon HaTemnihu we had before, who says like this. Damar ma egrif miyuchad shemasr le'eda le'edim, that the weapon used must be presented to the Edom and the Edo, the Bezdin as well. So have to appraise it firsthand. We need this umdana de Beidin. The Bezdin has to get personally involved. Right? That's the rule. So in order to trigger any sort of liability, Bezdin has to personally see the weapon involved and evaluate and appraise firsthand. But in this case, Kiv and the Gomar didn't look tall. Once we condemn the shur to Misa, we no longer have the option of holding on to the shur and evaluating and figuring out what happened with the Nizakan. Too late. We don't hold them around, don't hold them up until the Bezdin gets involved and makes that appraisal. Because it's inu yadin. Interesting. Just like by a person being put to death. Once the Bezdin condemns him, once the Bezdin makes the psak, we don't hold on, we don't delay, we don't procrastinate. The same thing with the shur. Interesting. We don't hold on to the shur. We don't delay things. We quickly proceed to the Misa, so it's not practical for us to get involved in the next litigation process. That was their explanation. And Rabbi responded. I told them like this. I feel to Rabbi Kiva. You're pinning the halacha on Shimon HaTemni. No, it doesn't necessarily have to follow Shimon HaTemni. Even Rabbi Kiva would work. So even Rabbi Kiva, who did not require the Bezdin to get personally involved and evaluated the weapon, etc. I feel it in Rabbi Kiva. Even Rabbi Kiva, the halacha would hold true. You know why? Hachmai Skinner was speaking about a case going to barach. The owner of the animal escaped. He disappears. And Rashi says, "Ve'ein chavon le'adam shlei b'fanav." We can't conduct this din Torah without the presence of this perpetrator of the owner. Well, says the Gemara. So that's come to explain why we can't go on to the din imamis. Well, ibarach, there's no owner. Kiloi danu din nefashes hechi danina le din imamis b'lei balim. So even if we didn't do phase 1 din nefashes to condemn the shur to misa, even without that, even we're holding at home base, we haven't done anything yet. But we can't proceed without the owner. Not din nefashes, not din imamis. Says with the Kabul Sahadi Baruch. Oh, what happened was like this. The owner was here for a short time. Then he felt the heat and ran away. The Edom came and testified that his shur struck and gored and attacked. And the owner knew he has nothing, nothing in it for him, he disappears. And there's no, we know he has no assets, we can't go and collect anything. Okay? So that's the case, and that explains why we can't proceed with collecting for the dinei mamonos, right? So after they did dinei nefashos and the shur, it's too late. We can't go collect anything. There's nothing to collect from. Says the Gemara, well, safe mechem mishtalim. So skip dinei nefashos. Let's say they wouldn't have done anything. We're holding it 0.0 right now, right? So who's going to pay? There's nothing to pay from. There's no owner, there's no assets. Oh, Miridia. So ridya means plowing, using the shur. They can rent the shur out and take that rental income and pay the victim, right? So that's all good if we haven't started the process. We can first go and try to earn, generate some income from this shur, this ownerless shur, pay up the fellow who is monetarily damaged, and then go and do din nefashos and kill the shur. But since they started with din nefashos, they already condemned the shur, we don't want to hold on to it, we don't want to procrastinate the din nefashos. And therefore we can't hold up, we can't earn any income, we can't generate any rental income, and we don't get involved with dinei mamonos at this point. Yahachi says the Gemara, if that's the case, Tam, let's go back to the first case. He was a Tam who pays me gufay. So the liability for this payout rests on the actual shur itself. It can't exceed the value of the shur, because primarily that's where you're going to take it from. That's sort of the object of the claim. So the Brisa says he's a Tam who killed and damaged. We first do dinei nefashos, and that's it. We can't proceed with dinei mamonos, because once you kill him, there's nowhere to take from, right? Why don't you go the other way around? Yachi tam nidayna dinei mamonos bereisha. Start with dinei mamonos. How are you going to get a payout? Rental income, minishtalim and ridya. And once you're paid up, then proceed to dinei nefashos and put the shar to death. So if we have this rental income option, why don't you maximize it? Use it even for the time. Amav Mari, Breder of Kandus, Ameris. Apparently, we can conclude from this brisa that this rental income, ridya, right? Aliyah de Marahu. It's considered, listen to this, it's not like taking the actual shur. Income, rental income, even though the shur is technically generating it, it's like taking from the owner's assets. It's his own personal interest. It's like interest that he earns off his property. It's his asset. It's his bank account, so to speak. It's like you would take from his bank account, and therefore, it's not applicable by a tam, because by a tam, the owner's, responsibility is limited to the actual guf of the shur, nothing more. So there's no concept of taking rental income and paying off the victim. Right? So in this case, we first do the dinei nefashos. So basically, it's either taking the actual shur and selling it, but then we can't do dinei nefashos, which is really what happened first. He first killed, so we can't do dinei mamonos, because once we do dinei mamonos, we sell the shur. There's no shur to kill, so we're stuck. We have to do dinei nefashos, kill the shur, and once we do that, that's it. He's gone, and there's nothing to take from. Interesting. Halacha. Okay, so we discussed kinyan peiros, kinyan aguf. We discussed joint ownership. Is it really ownership at all? We discussed the various boishes penalty payouts relative to the level of embarrassment caused. We had the interesting story of this fellow who was trying to sort of bypass his boishes payout by orchestrating this whole thing with the isha. Ultimately, he was called to task. We had the story with Rabbi Yehuda Kessler that got us into the whole Eid Nasadai in this discussion. We concluded with the Brisa, a shur who was Mamus and Mazik, depending whether it's a Tam or Mud, and it all depends on what the Bezdin approached first, whether it was dinei mamonos or dinei nefashos, as explained. All the best to you, Hatzlacha Rabbah.